so if I can say that person's no good, if I say it loud enough, maybe I'll convince somebody that while I'm not good, I'm better than that person, right? It's unbelievable the negative environment that's created by really bad ideas that are accepted, and we hold up people like Jack Welch, the best leader of the 20th century. Give me a break. By what measure do we appoint somebody like that as the greatest leader of the 20th century? So give me your nominee who are great leaders, who have helped organizations to achieve unbelievable excellence, not because they were individually brilliant, but because they actually created the conditions so that people can say yes to these three questions every day. It's a short list. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. I was listening to what you said about leaders needing to learn skills, and you mentioned informational technology. And I happened to see a presentation the other day on C-SPAN 2 about Abraham Lincoln's use of the telegraph. Mm-hmm. He was the first president to use the telegraph in war, and how at the beginning of the war he didn't really know how to use it, but by 1863 or 1864 it was clear that he had come to master this as the president, and used it forcefully and strategically and sensitively. And in light of your experience at the top of our federal government, I was just wondering how you might see or cite Lincoln and any of his ways as natural leadership or leadership models.
I think he's a really wonderful example of at least in the dimension of being a leader who established aspirational goals. And if you read some of his most famous things, they're truly inspirational. What I don't know is this, whether you could really make a case, if you investigated carefully, that not only did he aspire and inspire, but actually created a feedback loop. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if we could find evidence that he created a feedback loop, which is a burden I would put on the current definition of what a real leader is.
His generals had a view of that.
Yes, they did, yeah.
Could you say more a little bit about this feedback loop? I mean, you didn't mention this before, right? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, okay, well, let me see. No, let me do it this way. Because it gives me an opportunity to emphasize what I said to you about workplace safety. So it's one thing to say we've examined the evidence and we know it's possible to create an organization where people are never hurt at work, okay? So that's fine, that's a beginning place, but if you really want to get to zero injuries, you need to, first of all, establish patterns and practices that are consistent with that goal. Now, let me do this in my industrial background environment. If you go through plants, you can see places that are inherently risky, all right? So let me use places where there are overhead cranes and maybe open second floors or mezzanines and the like, so it doesn't take a great amount of experience to discover that when you're walking underneath that environment, you're at risk of having somebody drop a nut or a bolt or a wrench on your head. And so, there's a scientific basis for saying, and writing on the wall in very big letters, if you're in this area, it's required that you have a hard hat. Okay? And especially in the American environment, it's really important not only that you assert the requirement, but you educate about why the requirement exists. Because in my experience, people in the United States do not take unexplained direction very well. In fact, they will honor it in the breach. All right, so you need to scientifically determine what needs to be done. You need to articulate a goal that you need to articulate a practice that everyone can say, yes, I understand, and I'm going to do it. You know, it's what I call signing the wall. So once you understand we don't want you to be at risk, and not being at risk means you always have a hard hat on, you say, I got it, I understand why I'm doing it, I signed the wall. It means from this day forward, I will never enter this area again without a hard hat on. And then you make sure that if the CEO shows up for a VIP tour, that if the CEO doesn't put the hard hat on, somebody tackles the CEO and knocks them down on the floor and says, we have a rule here, we don't care who you are, you cannot go in this area without a hard hat. Not, it's okay, we've made sure everything is okay, right? Because that act of excusing anyone, including the person who's seen as the leader, of being excused from what we know is a legitimate contract we've made with each other, basically voids the contract for everybody, because if it's not true for the CEO, it isn't true for anybody else, especially when nobody else in a supervisory position is present, right? So you want to see an organization where cheerleading words about people are our most important thing are not true. Go and look at places where it says on the wall, hearing protection required, and the operators don't have earplugs in their ear. That's a place where values are a lie. All right? So what do I mean by a feedback loop? Let's say we create this stable condition, we deploy scientifically determined practices that we're all going to do, and then from time to time, someone will have an injury that you did not anticipate and did not foresee the circumstances that could create an injury to someone. In a great organization, every variation from perfect is identified immediately. And in the case of safety incidents, it's put on the internet site within 24 hours, identifying by name the person who was hurt, so that it's human. It's not about statistics. It's about this person whose name we know was injured today. These were the surrounding circumstances, and we have done a root cause analysis. These are the changes we need to make to the circumstances so this never happens again here. And then in my case, 350 locations in 43 countries with an expectation within 24 hours, every one of the locations would have looked at their circumstances, and if they could see how this could happen in their place, an obligation not to put it in the budget, but to fix it today. That's what I mean about a feedback loop, okay? Using technology to create real-time responses to things gone wrong so that every day you're raising the level of your performance. And if you can get into that cycle of continuous learning and continuous improvement, I guarantee you, you're on your way to being an exceptional, habitually excellent organization. And it's not just about safety, it's about everything. All right, so I tell you, I don't have more time.
You have an opportunity to join everybody for
Okay.
cookies and a drink.
All right, thank you all very much.
Now he's about to leave. Come join us next door. Continue the conversation.